15 October 1946. Munich. In pencil, in a small graph paper notebook, a clerk named Karl writes a sentence that cannot be spoken aloud in the hallway outside his office. The new Germany is built on what we do not say. He writes it quickly. He hides the notebook under a ledger. He returns to a desk stacked with forms. The war is over. The war is over. The arithmetic of those two statements will govern his next 20 years. May 1945. The streets are grey rivers of brick and lime, a city of cavities, windows without glass, staircases without houses. Trümmerfrauen in kerchiefs swing picks into load-bearing walls that no longer bear anything. They sort brick from brick. They clean mortar with gloved hands until fingers bleed. They lift and lift and lift and lift. The ruins have their own records. Municipal crews map piles by tonnage and street. Allied aerial photos overprint blocks with cross-hatching, percentage destroyed. Municipal notations read like a ledger of injury. 60% here, 75% there. Whole neighborhoods reduced to a ratio. In these numbers, people disappear. They are missing. The missing live in parentheses. Father Vermist, since January 1945, Eastern Front. Brother unbeckoned, last letter, December 1944, from somewhere southwest of Budapest. A Soundseas name on a local Red Cross board crowded with names. A child who was sent to relatives in the countryside in 1943 and never returned. Each family keeps a collage of paper proof, Feldpost letters, telegrams, notices of death with the eagle and wreath printed in fading black. The arithmetic of absence organizes whole lives. The Allied troops enter the cities with maps and orders. They post guardhouses in city halls. They post signs in German and English. Curfew at 2000 hours. Surrender all weapons. No gatherings. They organize liaison offices. They distribute instructions to denazify municipal employment roles. They have lists of names. They have questionnaires. In Karl City, the 7th Army advances street by street. Tanks park in front of a church whose steeple is a landmark not only for prayer, but now for navigation. A column of displaced persons follows behind the armored column. Poles, Ukrainians, Lithuanians, Italians, French, people who have been forced to work in factories. They carry duffel bags, they carry small children, they carry their languages. The army sets up DP camps quickly in school buildings, barracks, former party recreation halls. The UN relief workers arrive. They have clipboards. The Germans, the immediate fear is retribution. There are rumors. People talk about how it was in the East. Stories are told and retold in kitchens at low voice, and in some cases they are true. Women move in pairs. Men stay indoors after dark. The city is a maze of rumors and frightened decisions. The curfew is real enough. The arrest lists are real enough. The fear is also a method. It moves people into compliance, into lines, into categories. From June to October 1945, the lists become forms. The Fragebogen is distributed across the American zone. It is long. 131 questions. Are you, or have you ever been, a member of the NSDAP? Which organizations? Under what dates? What positions? What donations? What attendance? Which relatives? It demands dates for which there are no dates. It demands honesty from a people whose new survival skill is silence. Karl has to fill out the form. He was a clerk in a city tax office in 1937. He joined the party that year. For job security, he will later write in his notebook. He paid dues. He went to a few meetings. He did not read ideological tracts. He did not denounce anyone personally. He will say he was just following. He will say he was only a clerk. He will say he was only a clerk. He will be one of thousands who write these sentences in careful blue ink. The ink is not an alibi, but it behaves like one. The denazification process is an apparatus. It produces categories the way a mill produces flour. Hauptschuldig, belastet, midlastet, midlaufer, entlastet, major offenders, offenders, lesser offenders, followers, exonerated. Spurchkammer hearings fold people into these bins. Committees convene. Witnesses testify. Character references are read. A Perselschein, a whitening certificate, clears a person with a signature, a little like soap. The mathematics of guilt is bureaucratic. There are too many people and too little time. The occupation authorities need the trains to run, the water to flow, taxes to be collected, schools to reopen. They discover that the apparatus of a modern city is built by those who were formerly attached to a party that fused itself to the apparatus. At the city electric works, the chief engineer was a party member. At the post office, the floor manager took fees for the Winterhilf's work. At the main hospital, the administrators signed purchase orders on paper with a swastika watermark. Remove them all and channels close. Keep them and justice is delayed and diluted. The numbers produce compromise. Out of millions of forms, a few thousand major offenders are prosecuted. Some serve prison terms. Thousands more are demoted, fined, barred from certain occupations for a period. But tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, are categorized as Mitläufer, followers whose offense is moral proximity. They return to desks. They teach again. They administer again. They take the positions vacated by those killed and those jailed. The city resumes. The hunger comes next. It arrives not as spectacle but as arithmetic. Official rations in 1946 sink to 1,000 to 1,000 calories per day in some zones. The hunger winter stretches from late 1946 into 1947. Snow covers fields and ruins together. People walk long distances to farms to barter. A tea chest is traded for a sack of potatoes. A fur coat becomes a piglet for the spring. Petty theft rises. The police reports list stolen items: bread, coal, boots, bicycle tires. Everything. A U.S. military government report from early 1947 notes, with clinical coolness, the caloric deficit is chronic. Bread is weight, fats are currency. The currency is also cigarettes. American cigarettes become arithmetic. 1 Chesterfield equals 2 kilograms of potatoes. 3 Lucky Strikes equals a kilogram of butter. A carton buys a suit. Cigarette prices fluctuate like any exchange rate. The black market has stalls like a bazaar. Housewives become traders. Children learn the new math before they return to proper school. Carl stands in a queue for ration cards. The card entitles him to queue again. He has a small stash of cigarettes. He does not smoke. He counts his stock the way he once counted tax receipts. His pen does not squeak on the paper when he writes these numbers in his notebook. He is careful. He watches the Trümmerfrauen move like a tide across the block. They break bricks. They stack them by tens. The stacks are counted by a foreman. The women get extra rations if their stack is high enough. The mathematics of rubble is visible, a geometry of labor. Every new wall contains old walls. Every new wall is also a ledger entry in a moral economy that is yet to be calculated. The churches fill again, not for triumph, for mourning and for distribution. Parish halls set up soup kitchens. They hang lists of names. People whisper confessions in sacristies that have seen other kinds of confessions. The sermons are careful. They speak of suffering. They speak of endurance. They speak of sin, but not of specific sins. The congregation hears what it wants. An occupation report notes an emphasis on spiritual rebuilding. It does not say, The pulpit is also a defensive position in a new battle over memory. The expellees arrive with snow still on their boots. 12 million to 14 million Germans are pushed west from East Prussia, Silesia, Pomerania, the Sudetenland. The trains disgorge families into towns that already cannot house their own. Some come on foot with carts, some possess only the clothes they wear. A county registration office fills its ledgers: date of arrival, point of departure, family size, occupation, language. The summaries the county sends to the land government read like a repeated cry. Locals and newcomers learn an arithmetic of scarcity the hard way. There are 2 families to a room. Tiers of bunk beds jam rooms that were parlors. Kitchens operate on strict schedules. An expellee mother named Anna complains in a letter preserved in a family file in a small-town archive. "We were given 1 hour for the stove." The local woman who shares the flat with Anna writes a comment on the letter. "They do not understand how we have lived through the last 2 years. Both feel injured. Both are right. Both keep score. Municipal councils pass housing ordinances. They requisition excess living space. They send clerks, men like Karl, to inspect apartments and compel citizens to take in strangers. The anger is directed at the clerk. He is the face of arithmetic. If a flat is 80 square meters and the law says 20 square meters per person, then 4 people is fair. If a room can close with a door, it is a room. If not, it is an alcove and does not count. People learn to define walls to their advantage. A registry notes the fights. A neighbor's dog kills a rabbit belonging to an expellee child. There is a scuffle. A policeman writes, "Tensions remain high. The lack of coal intensifies all quarrels." He does not add that the lack of empathy is also a fuel. He does not need to, it is understood. In the shadow of these daily arithmetics there is another series of camps. Some exist inside barbed wire. They are called DP camps, displaced persons centers. They exist in the fields outside town. Some former camps are now DP camps with new administrators and new rules. The signboards at the entrances have been changed. The new signboards are printed in English and Yiddish and Polish. Germans pass by the fences and do not stop. They do not read the new signs. In Feldafing, in the American zone, a camp of Jewish survivors prints its own newspapers. It reopens a school. A rabbi writes sermons about a future in Palestine. The people inside need permits to visit town. They need passes to take a train. The town people need none. The arithmetic of movement in 1946 carries other histories within it. A German woman who is on her way to barter a ring for eggs glances at a group of DP youths laughing. She looks away quickly. They are loud. They are alive. They are a challenge to a protective story in which suffering is a German monopoly. Oral histories collected decades later record moments when that story cracks. A baker's wife reports seeing the numbers tattooed on a man's forearm when he reaches for a loaf. She goes to her cellar. She sits among the jars and the coal dust. She cries. Then she stops. She hides the memory with the jars. The strategies of denial are practical. People say they did not know. They knew some things. They did not know all things. They knew enough. They say they were not there. They were elsewhere. They were busy surviving. It is not untrue. It is not enough. The occupation reports record a general tendency to minimize personal responsibility and emphasize personal suffering. The reports are written in the English of officials who have seen this before and will see it again. Karl is assigned to the housing office. His job is to match names to rooms, allocations to families. He reads complaints from locals and expellees alike. He calculates cubic meters of air in cellars, because families want to know if they can sleep there when they cannot sleep elsewhere. He keeps lists of addresses where the tenant was, an old party member who was removed or demoted, whether that tenant has a replacement, whether the replacement has children. The paper in his office absorbs the damp of human breath. He keeps the documents in cardboard binders. He adds a square of newspaper to each binder to press it flat. He files memos with carbon copies. He learns to nod and not to speak. His wrist aches. He thinks sometimes of the first line he wrote in his notebook. In the Sprüchkammer room, the atmosphere is theatrical and tired. There are chairs for the judged and the judging. A photograph preserved in the Bundesarchiv shows one such room, a blackboard, a crucifix, a portrait of a statesman in a new suit. The crucifix is a holdover. The portrait is a new order. Nothing is stable. A teacher explains that he joined the party to keep his job. He instructed children in mathematics and Latin. He did not teach ideology. He did not denounce Jews. He is a Mitläufer, he says. He asks for a second chance. People like him receive it. Those with blood on their hands lose more than their jobs. The rest settle into a diminished present that heals faster than it should. In one denazification file from a town near Kassel, a former blockleiter is described as eager. He organized collection drives. He gave speeches. He slapped a neighbor. He later becomes a clerk for the water authority after 2 years of Berufsverbot, a ban from his profession. No one forgets. Everyone pretends to. The city water flows. The ledger is balanced. Currency reform arrives like a jolt. 20. June 1948. Deutsche Mark replaces the Reichsmark. Each person is allowed 40 marks at first, then 60. Old paper becomes wallpaper. Shop windows fill overnight. The presence of actual goods is a psychological event as much as an economic one. The black market stalls are still there the next day, but they look suddenly shabby. Prices flatten. People carry their new banknotes in wallets with a new stiffness. The Marshall Plan is not a slogan. It is crates and manifests and financing terms. The Western Allies call it European Recovery Program, ERP. The crates arrive at the docks and the railheads. Wheat, powdered milk, machine tools, transport vehicles. The crates have stencils that say, "From the American people." A photographer documents them. The movement of the crates into stores is studied by economists and memorized later by schoolchildren as origin myth. At the city level, ERP credits are assigned to firms. A machine tool company gets funds to buy a new lathe. A glassworks replaces a furnace. A railway workshop repairs locomotives with steel shipped from overseas. Growth is embodied in steel, coal, electricity. It is also embodied in paperwork. Carl reads the lists of allocations. He stamps dates. He files receipts. He is now part of the mathematics of reconstruction, a clerk in a line of clerks whose signatures count. The city is rebuilt, not as it was, but as it can be after so much breakage. Planners decide which streets to widen and which to keep narrow. They plan green belts where rubble was too dense to clear. They erect new apartment blocks with clean lines and shared balconies. There is an architectural style for living in the new time, modern, simplified, light. The old ornaments are out of place now. The old ornaments belong to a set of politics that was not only murderous, but heavy, literal stone weight. The new materials are steel and glass and rhetoric of light. The school books are also new. They are written by committees supervised by the Education Ministry in the zone and then in the new state. The chapters on recent history are careful. They cover Weimar in pages. They present the rise of Hitler as a series of dates, causes, missteps, structural crises. They do not linger on individual consciences. They do not examine individual participation. They stress that many were victims of a regime run by a small clique. They focus on the bombings, the firestorms, the displacements, the hunger. Students learn the phrases Stunde Null, 0 hour, Trümmerfrauen, Wirtschaftswunder. The words settle into the culture and close questions even as they open others. Karl's children bring these schoolbooks home. He helps them with their homework. He points to a map of Germany that has new borders. He tells them that their aunt was born east of that line. He does not tell them what he did in 1938. He does not have to. They do not ask. The house is full of inherited silence. It is kept on a high shelf beside the good plates. Commemorations are invented and reinvented. The Volkstrauertag, the People's Day of Mourning, is resumed. It is solemn. It honors soldiers and civilians. The parades are shorter than before. The speeches are about tragedy without culprits. There are memorial stones in some towns to the victims of war and dictatorship. The words are valid. The words are also a bit of smoke blown across unquiet ground. Some towns rebuild synagogues. Many do not. Some erect a plaque where a synagogue once stood. The plaque is small. The font is modest. It notes that the building was destroyed in 1938. It does not say by whom. It is enough for the mayor. It is not enough for a young historian in the town who writes to the local newspaper. His letter mentions names. He is asked to be quiet, to be reasonable. The city has suffered enough. He answers with numbers. Numbers make people uncomfortable. The Cold War arrives. It drapes itself across the ruins and the new construction. The borders are rigid in some places, porous in others. The city that is the heart of the metaphor splits into sectors and authorities and walls. The arithmetic of guilt is joined by the arithmetic of alignment. People become anti-communists again. They are good at it. They have practice. Their conversions are sincere and also convenient. Allied intelligence summaries shift from Nazis to communists. The files fill with new names, new acronyms, new categories. A clip from 1949 notes the emergence of stable democratic structures in the Western zones. It also notes continuity of personnel in administrative positions. The fact that these sentences can coexist without embarrassment is a sign of the time. Stability is the product. Justice is the cost. The math is not secret. It is just not spelled out. Karl's office gets a new paint job and a new coat rack. He receives a promotion to a desk with a window that looks onto a courtyard where bicycles lean against a low wall. He knows that the man at the desk before him spent 1933 to 1945 writing different kinds of letters. He knows that one of the co-workers who stamped allocations for building materials now stamps allocations for welfare. He does not inspect the pasts of their hands. He simply cannot. He writes in his notebook at night. He writes sentences like the first. We told the truth in fragments. We assemble a republic out of files. It matters what we sign. The tone is sober. His writing is not for anyone else. He places the notebook behind other books on a shelf. He locks the shelf. He carries the key. A municipal project opens a new memorial in 1952 for the dead of the bombing raid of 1944. The mayor speaks. A minister speaks. A former party stalwart, now a respected businessman, stands in the front row. He takes off his hat at the right moment. He has learned the choreography of democracy. He employs 30 people. He donates to the charity drive for the expellee children. He tells a former associate not to mention the time he gave a speech in 1935. It is not an admission. It is a command. It is obeyed. A small group of Jewish survivors returns to the city after years abroad. One opens a tailoring shop. One becomes a photographer. One reconnects with a woman who hid in a cellar 3 streets over. The city is polite to them. It is not kind. It is wary. It places them in its narrative carefully, as proof of tolerance, as absolution too soon sought. They smile in photographs that end up in the archives labeled Wiedergutmachung, making good again. The phrase is a policy. It is also a prayer. The Federal Republic takes shape. 1949. A basic law. Elections. Parties. Ministries. Allied high commissioners cede certain authorities. German judges judge again in German courts. Documents again carry the eagle without the wreath. The oath is to a different text now. Politicians invoke a different past. They are building a future, but they build it with the hands they have, and those hands are marked. The ascent of the early 1950s is measured in washing machines, in motor scooters, in vacations at the lake, in family photographs on beaches littered with signs that say "Betreten verboten," stepping forbidden. The people ignore the signs sometimes. The signs are leftovers. Work changes. Life changes. A woman who worked on rubble crews now works in a department store that sells dresses. A man who repaired bicycles in a courtyard now assembles parts for an automobile company that will see exports to Sweden and Britain. He is an Arbeiter, a worker, and he can afford a radio and a clock. He hears a new word on the radio, Wirtschaftswunder. Economic miracle. The word becomes a blanket. It covers many things, including wounds. The mathematics of consumption replaces the mathematics of hunger. People plan purchases. They plan a future. They save. They buy on installment. This arithmetic is soothing. It is not morally exculpatory. It is morally anesthetic. It allows people to live. It allows them to ignore. The young are not entirely anesthetized. In the late 1950s, a student in Carl's City reads a leaflet about a trial in Frankfurt. The trial concerns crimes committed years before in a camp not far away and across an ocean in memory. It is 1963. The student attends a session. He hears testimony. He hears names. He goes home and asks his father questions. The father is uncomfortable. He allows that things were bad. He denies that they were that bad. He swallows his beer. He changes the subject. Carl does not attend the trial. He reads about it in the paper and folds the page neatly. He writes in his notebook that day, "It is hard to be old enough to have responsibilities then and young enough to have an excuse.